So I just want to welcome everybody here today. Thank you so much for taking time away from all the things that you probably have to be doing and spending it here with me. I'm going to try to keep this relatively short. It's probably 30 minutes, 30, 35, 40 minutes. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I am just really happy that you're here and that you want to learn something new. Just a couple of things that you should know about. The session is being recorded. If you signed up for the webinar, if you just popped in because you saw something on Facebook, then you will automatically get a recording because you had to put your email address in to watch this webinar, and I get that information. And so then I will email it to everybody so that you can watch it again if you would so like. I'm going to be editing it because sometimes I say really stupid things and there's weird long pauses or whatever, and I want to get rid of those and just keep it as short as I can. Here is a quick disclaimer. I am not a physician. I am a paramedic. I am not giving you any advice, any medical advice. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just sharing some of my experience, some of my things that I've learned along my own personal journey. You know, as always, if you want to make some drastic changes in your life, although I'm not really suggesting or telling you to do anything, but if you want to take up any of the things I talk about in this webinar, you know, you might want to talk to your doctor, but I mean, they're all pretty, you know, not going to cause you probably any harm. I'll just say that. Please ask me questions in the Q&A. I would love to answer them. I can either type some answers or I can just say I'm here on the webinar. I think there is a little bit of a delay, so if I don't answer it right away, that's probably why. Take this opportunity to limit your distractions and just spend the next 30-ish, 40 minutes with me learning something that you probably haven't learned before or learning it in a way that you haven't heard it before. Take some notes and, of course, have an open mind. If you're new to these parts and you have no idea who I am, my name is Valerie Bestland. I am a full-time flight paramedic, and I am also an EMS life and weight loss coach. I have been a flight paramedic now for 20 years. I cannot believe it has been 20 years. It's just hard to believe. I'm so glad that I do it. I absolutely love this career. I love being a paramedic, and I also love being a life coach. And all of us need life coaches, especially those of us that work in EMS. We're going to talk more about that. Come find me on the social medias. I'm all over the place. You can find me at HEMS, HEMS coach, or check out my website, hemscoach.com. You might also know me from my Facebook group, All EMS Women. I sometimes try to say it wrong. I created it, so you would think I would know my own group name, but it's All EMS Women. I love that group. And if you know any women in EMS, please share that group if you're not already in it with them. You can easily find it by searching All EMS Women or EMS Women. It should come up on Facebook. I also wanted to do all of this because I have been through my own personal journey over the last 5 years, and I've had a completely dramatic change in my life. And I want to offer that to anybody else who wants it. This life as a paramedic, nurse, respiratory therapist, physician, all of us working in EMS, right? We can get bogged down by this industry. We can get burnt out. We can become super cynical, and that's not necessary, actually. And so having a life coach is super helpful for that. So why is it so hard to lose weight in EMS? Right? That is such an awesome question. And by the end of this webinar, you should have a pretty good idea of why. But first, we need to figure out why it's so darn easy to gain weight. Why is it so easy to gain weight in EMS? Well, the answer is simple and very complex. And the reason we gain weight and it's so easy is because we are overeating. But we are overeating not because we have no willpower, because there's something wrong with us, or because I hear this one all the time, I just love food. Okay, that is not the actual reason why you're overeating. Okay, it's not that simple. Just the fact that you love food, it's not that simple. We overeat for several reasons, and I'm going to talk about 3 or 4 of them today. So, the reason why we overeat is because we are overstressed, we have an over desire for food, and we are hungry all the time or over hunger. It's not that simple, right? Probably asking yourself, what are those things? So the stress of EMS, we have a tremendous amount of emotional, physical, and mental stress in this job. We have crazy schedules. Now, I think that there's people in EMS who have normal schedules. Like, I don't know. They're unicorns, in my opinion. In the 25 years that I've been in EMS, I've never had a normal, consistent schedule, right? I've worked all of the types of shifts from 24s to 12s to 8s. And right now, what I do is I work 36 hours a week, 12-hour shifts. And we do a lot of what I like to call the flippy floppy. So I worked days this weekend. I work I think Thursday day, and then I'm on nights for 2 days, and then I'm back on a day shift. So we're constantly flipping and flopping back and forth. Now, this is not good for us, my friends. This completely disrupts our circadian rhythm, and it creates some serious sleep problems. Whether you're overtired, over fatigued, you have complete lack of sleep, maybe you have insomnia, right? All of this, by the way, lack of sleep and chronic fatigue is extremely stressful for your body. Some other stressors of EMS, like I talked about the schedule, our sleep, just the unbalanced living that we have. The hours that we work, the expectations of the job, the tragedies and traumas that we're seeing, the abuse of the system, lack of support from our coworkers, our leaders, noise, vibration, and the elements, right? Like I said earlier, like it's snowing here today and it's been in the 30s and 40s. Now it's supposed to get super cold. Like my friends that live in the Phoenix or southern areas, they deal with the heat in the summer. These things are all extremely stressful on our bodies, and it has long-term effects on us. Sorry, I need to drink a lot of water. I did not drink enough water this weekend. I can totally tell. So, the way we handle or manage these stressors will have a direct effect on our weight. Cortisol is the hormone we hear about when we talk about the stress response. And this is a beautiful thing, especially we know that the stress response is helpful to get us up in the middle of the night, to get our, get us wide awake and go respond to emergencies. It's also beneficial for our patients who have a stress response, right? So that they try to stay alive. The problem with stress and why it is such a difficult thing is that it affects every area of our life and every system in our body. Now, we know that cortisol is released in epinephrine and norepinephrine. But the one thing that you need to understand about stress and your weight is that when we are really experiencing that stress response, we release glucose because our brain says, oh, we need more energy. We need to be able to run from the tiger chasing us, right? And so when we're in that stress response, we're releasing glucose because our body thinks it needs it for fuel. But if you're just checking your email or you're watching something on television, your brain doesn't know the difference. And so we have the stress response. Same with when we're going on a call or going on a flight. We can feel our heart rate racing. We release the glucose. And then what comes when we release glucose is our friend insulin. Insulin, as we know in the medical world, right, allows the glucose to enter the cell or the tissue wherever it needs to go. But what most of us don't know or didn't know is that insulin is a fat storage hormone. This will become a problem later on when we talk about it. But this is what's so important about stress is that we release glucose, even if we're not eating anything. And then insulin comes in. And insulin is one of the big problems when it comes to our weight in EMS. Lack of sleep. When we're not getting the sleep that we need, it's very stressful for your body. Your body has a stress response. You might not feel it the way that you're typically normally feeling a stress response by increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, stuff like that. We don't experience it as much because we're kind of numb to it. We're tired. We're not sensing all those things. But it really affects your body. And what happens then is we become more hungry. When we are tired and it's stressful, we think we need glucose. We don't have any. It's the middle of the night. These things are all very important to understand if we want to lose weight in EMS. And then we use food, like my little guy here. He's emotionally eating. We use food to comfort ourselves from the stress that we're experiencing, whether it's physical, emotional, mental stress. We use food as a distraction. We use it as a way to comfort ourselves so that we can feel better. The problem is that these things have net negative consequences. So that's not good. Stress is a real problem if we want to lose weight. The next thing is over desire. Over desire is created by your brain, your primitive brain to be exact. Now, in a highly oversimplified definition, we have two parts of our brain. We have the primitive or the primal brain, which is in charge of our primal functions, right? Keep us alive. It's our first brain that we have. It's very animalistic, right? It cannot think about the consequences of our immediate actions. The other part of our brain is our more new brain or our human brain, and it's called the prefrontal cortex, or sometimes you might hear it called the neocortex or the new brain. And that is the part of our brain that is in charge of executive function. It helps us determine the consequences of our actions. It allows us to create goals, to discern between good or bad, right or wrong, which is a skill that our primitive or primal brain does not have. This is going to be important to know. So with over desire, we want food all of the time, right? We're constantly inundated with food and food images, marketing, advertising, TV, all the meaningful interactions that we have with our family and holidays and celebrations all revolve around food. Okay. Our culture has completely normalized overeating. Your primitive brain, by the way, loves this. Your primitive brain its job is to keep us safe and alive. And it is driven by what's called the motivational triad. And the motivational triad is where our primitive brain wants to seek pleasure because pleasure is associated with good, survival, important, right? It's also trying to avoid pain because pain means death. Your brain does not want you to die. It wants you to avoid painful things. But your primitive brain doesn't know the difference between being chased by a tiger or an email from your boss or a TV show that you're watching or whatever, right? It senses that there's pain, whether it be physical or emotional pain. Your brain will try to avoid that. And it avoids that by then seeking pleasure. And the easiest pleasure that we have is food. And then the other part of the motivational triad, which I kind of skipped over, is to be efficient. So it becomes very good at seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. So this is creating a habit. So it's super easy when we're feeling stressed to go grab a handful of crackers and some cheese because that feels good and we're avoiding and not thinking about the stressful call we were just on. We are living in our primitive brain all the time. Most of us are because it feels good. It feels way better. Thank you, dopamine. By the way, this is the neurotransmitter dopamine. It makes us feel good. And so, of course, most of us live in our primitive brain. It's easier to live there. We don't have to think about the consequences of eating cheese and crackers and a soda. right? We just do it. It feels good. We're avoiding the pain. Nobody wants to think about all the stressors that we have at our job. We don't want to think about the calls. We don't want to think about the patients and their families. It's much easier to just distract ourselves than to do that. So our brain thinks it's doing us a favor, but it's not. We have consequences, right? We have net negative consequences, usually in the form of weight gain, not processing our emotions and having sleep disruptions and being tired all the time, and being snappy with our family. So the other problem that over desire creates is over hunger. What the heck is that? So you're hungry all the time. When your primitive brain wants you to be eating all the time, this creates over hunger. And when we're hungry, we eat. When we eat all the time, we disrupt our hormones, especially the hormone insulin and leptin. These are super important to know about if you want to lose weight. You have to understand this. It's not just that you don't have any willpower. It's not just that you love food. It's not the one way to solve our weight problem isn't to just go on a diet and change what we eat a little bit. It's so much more complex than that. We have to understand over desire and over hunger and our over stress and how it affects us. So when we have a disruption in our hormones, we are either, well, let me say this. When we have this disruption in our hormones, I'm mostly talking about insulin. Now, we know that when we eat food, we have increased glucose in our blood, and then insulin comes in, right? And so insulin, when the cells don't need any more energy for fuel, what does it do? It stores it as fat. And when the insulin is there, insulin does not like to give up that fat. It holds onto it very tightly. So I want you to start thinking about either you're in a fat burning state or you're in a fat storing state. And this is because of insulin. When we have elevated insulin, we are in a fat storing state. And when we have low insulin, we are in a fat burning state. Because here's the deal. We have stored fat on our body. Our brain doesn't know that it's fat. Our brain knows that it's fuel, but it wants to hold on to it in case of an emergency. But it's the year 2021 and we're not going to be missing any food. Okay. Even if you miss a meal, you've got lots of extra on your body. We have to allow ourselves the opportunity to do what our body was designed to do, which is to access its stored fat for fuel. But none of us do this if we're overweight, right? Because the second we get up, we want food. And then we are inundated all day. And we're eating all the time. We're eating every couple of hours. Okay. Who told us that we should be eating 3 meals and 3 snacks every day? We should be eating mini meals. No. You know who told you that? Somebody who's got money to make, like the snack food industry. Don't listen to them. You should not be eating all the time. If you want to lose weight, I should say that. If you don't have to lose weight, you eat whatever you want. I don't really care. But if you want to lose weight, you're going to have to not be eating all the time. So here's the deal. So leptin is a hormone that is released or secreted by our fat cells. Wait a minute. If we have extra fat, why aren't we releasing more leptin? That doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, I remember when I learned about this, I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why am I still overweight? The problem is that our brain does not hear the signal that leptin sends when we're getting inundated with fat being stored. Thank you, insulin. It doesn't hear that message because if we're overweight, especially if we've been overweight for more than a year or two, we are likely what is called insulin resistant. Okay, it's kind of that pre-type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, you might hear it. It's insulin resistance. So when we are insulin resistant, that blocks the signal of leptin in our brain. So we don't even know that we're full or that we need to stop eating, like when we're eating. This is a problem because then your brain's like, wait a minute, if we're not full, maybe we're hungry. So then it sends in the hunger hormone, which is called ghrelin, and that is released by the lining of your stomach. But the more important hormones that we need to know about are insulin and leptin. We're either in a fat burning or a fat storing mode. Okay, so insulin is the highest, it gives us the highest release of insulin related to the highest release of glucose, which is sugar and flour. Okay, fruit, then grains, protein, vegetables, and fat. Actually, fat doesn't release any insulin because it has no glucose in it. So then we don't get any insulin increase. So this is awesome to know when it comes to deciding what we are going to eat when we want to lose weight. If anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A. I think I can see them in the Q&A. Okay, let's see, what's next? Oh, what's the solution? What's the solution to this problem? Well, we need to reduce, I actually meant to change this on the slides, but we need to reduce our stressors. We need to reduce our stressors and learn to manage them in a way that has a net positive result or outcome or effect. Not like a net negative effect, which we're probably currently doing right now. We need to find ways to manage that stress. We need to also decondition the over desire. By not wanting food all of the time, we won't be hungry all the time. When we eat less, we'll actually be able to recalibrate those hormones. And then recalibrating our hormones will happen when we want food less, when we manage our stress, when we get better sleep, right? By doing all of these things, we'll be able to release that extra weight. We'll be able to feel better. We'll be able to sleep better and probably have a little bit better mood. So you might be wondering, well, how do I do this? Good news. I have the answer. This is just one of the answers, right? I call it the ABCs of weight loss for EMS. Some of you might have seen a video that I did on this. I thought, I'm going to teach it here instead of sending you to a video, another video. And I did that one, I think, about a year ago. So, you know, things change. How I talk changes a little bit. So I wanted to go over very quickly the ABCs of weight loss for EMS, which are assess our hunger and fullness, begin upping our water intake, commit to protecting and prioritizing our sleep, make decisions ahead of time, and to exercise. I'm going to talk about each one of these things. Now, I just want to say that this is like the very basic, this is why I call it the weight loss basics. This is the very basics of the foundation of losing weight when you work in EMS. Now, there are just like how there's certifications for EMT, paramedic, critical care. Same thing with weight loss, right? There's the basic foundation, then there's kind of the advanced level, and then there's like the critical care version. So today I'm going to teach you just the basics. If you can start applying all of these tools today, like you don't have to spend any money, you don't have to do anything. This is easy and free. All right, so we need to first learn to assess our hunger and fullness. The biggest thing that I want you to take away from today is you need to only eat when you're hungry and stop eating when you feel satisfied. Now, this is the hunger scale. So on the far left side is the -10 or the hunger side. And then the right side is the fullness or the +10 side. And right in the middle is 0, and that's neutral. So it's a good idea to try to eat when you're at a -4 and to stop eating when you're maybe like a +3, +2, +3. Now you might ask why not +4 is because when we're eating, it takes some time. There's a little bit of a time lapse in there. And so by the time we stop eating, we're probably fuller than we think that we are because our body hasn't caught up with our brain. So if you stop eating at a +3 in an hour, you'll be at a +4 or maybe even a +5. So for me personally, I eat at a -5 and I eat to a +2, which I know sounds super complicated, but listen, I've been working at this for years. And so I'm really aware of what hunger feels like in my body. And I'm very aware of what that twinge of fullness is. Now, here's the deal. We need to stop eating when we feel satisfied, not full. Which means if you're actually paying attention to how you're feeling while you're eating, you are going to still have food on your plate if you stop when you feel satisfied. Or when you have that that sigh. That is a brilliant signal that it's time to stop eating. I feel like I have to sneeze. That would be really bad to sneeze on a webinar. Hold on. So learn your hunger and fullness. Now it's different for everybody. It's going to take a ton of practice. And the other thing I will say about becoming in tune with your hunger and fullness is that you cannot be distracted. You cannot be watching television while you're eating. You cannot be reading while you're eating. You just got to sit there and sit with the discomfort of like sitting there alone eating. It's not a big deal. I don't know why we think we have to be so entertained while we're eating, but I don't want you to be entertained while you're eating. I want you to be paying attention because remember, the real reason why we're overweight is because we're overeating. We're eating way more food than our body requires for fuel. So step one, you have to learn how to only eat when you're hungry and stop when you're satisfied. I should just teach that. That should like be the only thing I teach. It'd be so simple. You could totally lose weight. The next thing we need to do is begin upping our water intake. Y'all don't drink enough water. You need to drink 80 to 128 ounces, which is a gallon, by the way, per day. Per day. And yeah, I know you're going to have to pee. So what? Who cares? It's just going to the bathroom. It's not a big deal. Okay. Isn't it a good price to pay to lose weight? You just go to the bathroom right when the tones go off or you get a flight request, just make a habit. You go to the bathroom. And here's the deal. That sensation that you get when you have to go to the bathroom, it's just a suggestion. And I know this for a fact because I'll have to go to the bathroom and then all of a sudden we go on a call. And then 2 hours later, I'm like, oh yeah, I had to go to the bathroom. Weird. Our bladders can hold a lot. So don't not drink water because you're afraid of having to go to the bathroom. That's just a lie your brain is telling you. Your brain really just wants you to eat food and it would much rather you grab a snack than to actually stay hydrated. Now, we need to stay hydrated for all the reasons we know. But if you're drinking 80 to 128 ounces of water per day, I'm going to tell you, you're not going to be very hungry because you're going to be full from water, which is good. Right? I'd rather be full with water than with chips. Okay? So drink more water, please. Go get one of those gallon jugs and just set it on your counter and then refill your water glass all day with that. It's perfect. Then you know how much water you've actually drank. Now, everybody that I coach is like, oh no, I for sure drink a lot of water. I'm like, really? Let's start keeping track. See how that goes. Then they find out they drink like 2 glasses of water a day. It's like, I'm not talking about coffee and tea and all the other things that we drink. I'm just talking about water, unflavored, unseltzery. What is flying around in here? Seltzery water. Sorry. I think this plant that I got here, the company that I work for sent me that because my dad passed away. And so it was lovely, but I think it came with a few little bugs. That's too much information. I'm for sure editing. Okay, so drink your water. Next, you have to commit to protecting and prioritizing your sleep. I just don't know other way to say this to you. We have to change our mindset about sleep. You cannot sleep when you're dead because you're dead and you will not be experiencing the best life. Okay, so I know that we think like it's a luxury to sleep, but if you are serious and you want to lose weight, you have got to figure out a way to sleep when you can. Now, I'm not going to be over here saying, oh, you have to sleep 8.5 hours every day. I understand it's not completely realistic, but on the days that you can, the days that you're not working or you're not on nights, you've got to figure it out. Got to clean up your sleep hygiene. Got to protect your sleep time. That means no disruptions, no distractions. Don't be making appointments for after your night shift. Nobody cares, by the way, that you're tired. I recently coached somebody on sleep. She's talking about how tired she is all the time. I'm like, first of all, stop telling everybody because nobody cares. Okay. When you tell yourself and tell people that you're tired all the time, guess what? You're going to be tired all the time. Stop it. Nobody cares that you're tired. Go to sleep. That TV show can wait. Your sleep is very important. You got to create a pre-sleep routine. Clean up your sleep hygiene. Have a pre-sleep routine. If you don't know what those things are, I did a YouTube video. Actually did a Facebook Live and I uploaded it to YouTube. It's like 48 minutes long. And all I talk about is sleep and how to create a pre-sleep routine and why it's important for you to turn your devices off and have your room at a certain temperature and stuff like that. So go check that out. Boy, I don't know the best way to tell you how to get there to find me. I've got this crazy URL for YouTube. It's like youtube.com, like weight loss solutions. I don't know. Just type my name, Valerie Bestland or HEMS Coach. You should be able to find it. It's great. I love talking about sleep. I could literally go on and on and on about sleep, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to tell you got to get sleep. Okay, the next thing we need to do is make decisions ahead of time. What is this? Okay, this is just another way of saying planning. We're using our prefrontal cortex versus our primal or primitive brain. This is a way to help overcome that over desire, the immediate satisfaction that we get when we just do whatever we want because it feels good in the moment. We have to understand that there are consequences to those things. And if we have a goal that we want to get to a certain weight or we want to drop a few pounds or whatever it is, like we have to be thinking about how we're going to get there and how we're going to do that. So the best way to do that is to make decisions ahead of time, especially when it comes to what we're going to eat and what we're going to be drinking, because there are certain foods that help us lose weight better than others. There's certain things that we can drink that can help us lose weight versus others that help make us gain weight. Okay, another thing we need to make decisions ahead of time on is our exercise. When we're going to be working out, when we're going to go for a walk, when we're going to sleep. You should really be planning your sleep, especially if it's inconsistent. You need to plan it and put it someplace so that your significant other isn't like planning you to take the children to the dentist after a night shift, right? Because maybe you've done it in the past and you're like, it's no big deal. It is a big deal. So plan your sleep, get it in your calendar, make sure your spouse knows. Okay, I really feel like I'm going to sneeze now. I think I have to mute my microphone. Oh my gosh, so embarrassing. Put your to-dos down too. Write them all down. You're more likely to do your to-do list if you actually write it down. And then you have to follow your plan. You have to follow through on that decision that you made, even when you don't feel like it. Here's the deal. You're not going to feel like doing most of it. None of us are. It's just the way our brains go. But the good news is you don't have to want to do something to do it. What? I don't actually want to go to work most days. I'd rather stay at home, work on my business, clean the house, play with my dog. But I have to go to work because I want the paycheck, because I want the money, because I want the insurance, right? So I don't want to go to work, but I do. I don't have to want to go to work to go to work. I tell this to my children when it comes to school, and it makes them very angry. But good news, you don't have to want to go to school to go. You just go and do it. It's not a big deal. Exercise. Listen, I know I'm going to make a lot of people mad when I say this, but exercise is not a weight loss tool. It's not. By the time we see results of exercise when it comes to weight loss, we've already given up. I mean, we don't ever see the results because we give up because it takes so long. Exercise is amazing for a million reasons, and none of them are weight loss. Right? Because we know the reason why we've gained weight is because we're overeating. Now, what most of us do is we overeat and then we try to work out super hard to burn those calories. But that's just not the way it works. What we end up doing is we overeat to compensate for the burning of the calories that we had. What? So when we're working out, the reason why we don't lose weight is because we actually start eating more, because our brain is like, whoa, hang on, wait, we just used a bunch of calories. We're going to need to eat those. And if you still have an over desire for food, you're going to eat more. Can you see how this is all related? Like when I think about this, I like see this like network of connecting things and just realize like we have to work on so many different things if we want to get the results that we want. So here's the deal. Exercise feels great. It feels amazing. We release endorphins. It reduces our stress. It's a good way to use up all that epinephrine and norepinephrine and cortisol, burn that stuff right up. Exercise. And then it improves your sleep. What? If you want to sleep better, you're going to have to be awake better. I talk about that in a different video on YouTube called Wakefulness. Nobody talks about that. Like if you want to sleep better, you got to be better at being awake. Think about that for a second. All right, so now I know what you're thinking. What about food? What should I be eating to lose weight? That, my friend, is a great question. And it's one that I love working with people on. So the next step would be to sign up for my workshop. It's called the Protocol Creation Workshop. What is a protocol? Well, it is a way that you create how you're going to eat. You decide what you're going to eat. I teach you a couple really cool tools and how to decide how you're going to, or what you're going to eat based on some questions that you need to ask yourself. Because here's the deal. A lot of us are eating foods that don't make any sense for us, and we just eat them because we think we're supposed to. And so I like to share those questions and those tools. And then, a protocol is a way of living. It's a way of making decisions ahead of time, of making sure we're eating foods that recalibrate our hormones. It's a way to reduce our over desire. There's things that we can do in order to reduce our over desire. And so the weight loss basics are amazing, and you should totally start doing those today. But the next level, or that mid-level of the EMT basic, advanced to critical care, right? This is the middle version. So if you want to lose weight, you have to eat foods that promote weight loss. Simple as that. So I have a great step-by-step way how to do that. And then the other thing that I teach in this protocol workshop is how to manage and allow urges. Urges are a big thing, right? Or craving. Some people might call it craving, or you're wanting a food all the time. Otherwise, also known as learning how to allow your emotions, because we feel a lot of emotions every day, right? And we're just used to dismissing them, avoiding them, using food and alcohol to make ourselves feel better, to distract from them. And that really is not the solution. If you want permanent weight loss, you're going to have to learn how to manage and allow uncomfortable emotions. So I have a really fun way to teach that. It's a tool called the Urge Jar. And I love teaching it. And I'm not perfect at it. Of course not. Like, I'm a human being and I'm not perfect at it. But just knowing a couple of those things is really going to help you with your permanent weight loss. So I do have a workshop coming up tomorrow. It starts tomorrow. I can't believe it starts tomorrow already. That's insane. So it's the January 19th and 20th. It's at noon Central, of course, because I do everything at noon Central, because that accommodates better for me, my children's school schedules and everything like that. And I can still take a nap if I'm on a night shift. So the good news is it's only $99. And if you're anything like me, you've spent thousands of dollars on bullshit. And this is not bullshit. This is a way that you decide how you're going to eat, how you're going to live your life in a way that's kind of a step-by-step fashion, right? We're so used to following a protocol or a guideline. This is just the same thing, just with how to lose weight, not like treat somebody with the chest pain. If you sign up, you get a lifetime access to the recording. There's live Q&A. You get feedback from me. And of course, as always, I love to do a bonus or a special offer for people who attend the webinar, because you've already learned a good chunk of, what I used to teach. I used to do the workshop in 3 days, and I taught this part first, and it was just too much. That, and then all the tools for creating the protocol, it was probably a little bit overwhelming. So I decided to do a webinar for that instead, and then have a special bonus. So the special bonus is you will get a follow-up one-on-one session with me where we can talk about anything that you're struggling with. And the last protocol workshop that I ran was in October, and the people that went through it are having amazing results. Like both of them that I talked to a couple times afterwards have sustained their weight loss. Right? October, November, December, January. I mean, through the holidays, 10 to 12 pounds. I mean, that's a big deal. Like you can really lose safely, probably 10 pounds in a month. I know that sounds crazy and it goes against what most people say, but I'm not making you do crazy stuff, right? We're just changing our over desire and our hormones. So simple. So that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time. Look, I've gone 40, well, I suppose 45 minutes, 46 minutes according to the clock. But so if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I hope that everybody learned something new. That would be amazing. I hope that you have a great week. I can't believe it's Monday. It feels like Friday. I mean, I worked all weekend, so of course it feels like the weekend. Oh, look, see, there's my little board. You can always tell when I've been doing some teaching or some, those are the weight loss basics back there. I love talking about it. I could literally talk about it forever. So if nobody has any questions, you can email me, send me a message on social media. I'd love to hear from you. And I hope that everybody has an amazing day. And I hope to see you in that workshop. Oh, you can get there by going to hemscoach.com, HEMScoach.com/protocol sign up. I should know my own URLs, right? hemscoach.com/protocol sign up. I'll send it, of course, in the link with the replay. So have a great day, everybody. It was so awesome that you were here. I hope you learned something, and I hope you're able to answer that question, why it's so hard to lose weight in EMS. All right, everybody. Bye.